So today we welcome back John Albanese to further the interview we started last week, where he made his great big announcement and gave us an exclusive interview about his new CAC or CAC grading service. John, thanks for coming back. As you know, we had a lot of interest. In fact, our record number of viewers on YouTube to watch our first interview, and I'm going to try and do a little better today and make it a little more entertaining and interactive. But John, there was a lot of questions that people had after that interview that wanted to know a few more things. You've posted some of this on a chat room on the CAC website, but I thought we would do a speed round first to go through some of these questions, and if you could answer quickly, that would be great. And then we'll dump into a more serious conversation that we had that seemed to generate the most confusion, which was specifically that people are confused about this A, B, and C grading that you assign when you're looking at coins and how that's going to apply to the new CAC grading service. So John, thanks for coming. Let's get right into it. You're in my studio now. How do you like that?
You need something, like you need a painting or something behind you. Pictures of coins. Too blank.
I don't know, it's all very last minute. Should I just hold this like this?
Well, I would hang it up, but I wouldn't hold it the whole time. I mean,
I know I can't hold. I know it's.
You'll get tennis elbow.
I know our studio is just not quite finished. I just sit like this. Thank you for joining us for a follow-up from our first conversation. It was very well received, and I want to just jump into this now with a speed round of questions that we saw were like the most frequently asked questions based on our first interview. Will you be using plus grades in the new service?
Yes.
Perfect. Will CAC slab these quote-unquote details coins?
Yes, correct. We will be. Well, in many cases, I discussed that with the graders this morning, and we will encapsulate details coins that we feel are collectible. Some coins are just so far gone, that are just so far destroyed, that we will not encapsulate them. And some of the early coins we've seen coming out of the Far East, we can't even tell if they're authentic. They're so damaged. So in that case, if we have any doubt in our mind whether being not genuine or just not collectible, we will not encapsulate it.
Just to clarify for our audience, the details coins, we're talking about coins that don't make it into a straight grade because of surface cleaning or environmental damage or being bent slightly. But obviously, if it's heavily bent or heavily damaged and scratched and etched, you're just not going to grade it.
Correct.
Okay. So will the new CAC holders, we hope, will they fit into these PCGS plastic boxes that everyone loves to use over the years?
Yes, and again, we had some concern. I think some concerns environmentally. We have many members that have thousands of these PCGS boxes. Apparently, many recycling centers won't accept them. So we've decided to might as well use the PCGS box. Our coins will stack and will fit into PCGS boxes. We have plans for tooling our own box, but it's probably 6 months down the road. It's not really a priority. There's so many PCGS boxes extant.
Right, filling up the landfills all over. All right, when it comes to crossing over existing slabbed coins, are you going to cross over PCGS, NGC, Annex, and ICG?
At the moment, we're planning on just only doing NGC and PCGS. The issue, we discussed ICG and Annex, and there's an issue there where we can't really see the rims, and that makes it tough. And so we've decided at the moment just to do NGC and PCGS. That could change.
So you don't want any surprises when you agree to cross a coin, then you crack it out. Uh-oh, this coin's got problems we couldn't see in the holder. Makes sense.
Correct.
What about these CAC gold stickers? Are they, we all know they are designed to specify that a coin is undergraded by a point or more. Are they automatically going to regrade at this point higher? And if it's a plus coin, is it going to be a plus in the next grade?
Well, we've always, again, we talked about the gold sticker many times, but the gold sticker was really not just simply a point higher. It was really in our minds a point and a half higher, in most cases, because it was really implemented to protect the consumer. Let's say a consumer in 1990 bought a proof 66 Morgan dollar and paid $25,000 for it, and today it looks like a seven. It was really to alert the consumer that, hey, you should have this coin regraded, or you should auction it where people could see it. It really wasn't meant to be what is today, which I believe is somewhat gimmicky. I can't really turn the clock back on that, but I would say the answer is yes. We will sticker. We will encapsulate coins at a point higher. A plus, that's a good question. The coin has to be seen. We haven't recognized the plus, as you know, in our last 10, 15 years. So going forward, if you have an MS65 NGC or PCGS coin with a gold sticker, at minimum, we'll 66 it, maybe plus it.
Right.
Maybe. I don't know. I have to see the coin, right?
Right. And my experience from trading in coins was, especially the 1980s era slabs of, let's say, gold coins and VF35 holders, they could easily be 45, 50. Those are probably where you'll see the biggest upgrades on gold stickered coins. Not. I saw somebody on your chat room asked if a 65 coin is automatically going to be a 68. Of course, that didn't make any sense to me. But no harm in trying, I guess.
Right.
And no guarantees, right? You can't say. Will you be able to say I will only upgrade this coin if it's a 2-point upgrade? Is that something you'll allow?
That's a good question. We don't have all the answers yet, but I know that we will have a crossover service, and we will have a crossover service for plus only. I think 2 points higher. I guess I don't see why not. If someone wants to give us special instructions, I wouldn't hold your breath of getting 2 points, but
right.
I don't see why we can't do that. I noticed today actually at 1843, 5 Liberty came in. That was MS61 gold, and it went to a 63 holder, and we stickered it. It was clear 2-point upgrade, but that's going to probably be a minority of the time.
Okay, that's an outlier. Okay, good. Well, it sounds to me like your flexibility is an enhancement,
right,
to the hobby. So how about submissions at shows? People want to know if you're coming to shows. Is CAC going to come to shows? Great on site, not great on site? What's the plan right now?
Plans on being at shows, have customer service there, and maybe not at a shoot, but sometime next year accepting coins at shows. However, we have no plans on actually grading at shows.
Okay. And I know you mentioned this in the first video, but I think it's really important to repeat who the graders are. I think it's one of the most important things about a grading company is the personalities involved in the grading and the talent. So if we have a moment, we could acknowledge those guys again.
Sure. Yeah. Again, we're pleased to have John Butler on board. He was a veteran at PCGS for about 10 years, and he's certainly he could grade as well as anyone. Ron Javuski as well. He graded NGC for about 10 years, and Bill Shamhart, as you know, he's been with CAC for 15 years, and these guys are all they're all world class. And well, put it this way: obviously, we know there aren't any so-called real standards in our business, but if you believe that, if you believe in the CAC product, and if you believe that I have a clue of how to grade, I can assure you these guys see the same thing I see on coins. We all see the same thing. It's a matter sometimes, if we have a disagreement, is how we interpret it. And that takes a while to work out. And as I mentioned before, I don't know whether it was in your interview but I mentioned we had an issue with 5 or 7 out of every 500 coins. It's really not major issues, just we're sort of tweaking things. And as many of you know, I think John Butler and Ron Javuski will have to get used to my pet peeve, which is friction, cabinet friction, and I've also gleaned from them and learned from them that we're a little too harsh on beautiful frosty coins with a few honest bag marks, right? Maybe we're a little tough on those, and we're getting it together. There's still going to be disagreements, and we have the ability. I mentioned in other interviews that I'll be here for tiebreakers if I'm not in Virginia Beach, and out of three guys, and I think Seth mentioned, how could that be a tiebreaker? There's three guys. Well, any of those three guys has the ability, if they don't agree, you just take one of them that has an issue with a coin. If they can't come to a consensus, then they'll hold the coin for me in Virginia Beach, or they'll send it here, and I'll look at it and I'll show it to my grading team because, as you know, we'll still be here stickering coins. So it sounds kind of crazy, but we really want to get every coin right. We're not building a factory. We're not. These are not widgets. These are great collectibles, and we want to treat everyone's coin the same. So it matters to us.
John, will you be grading moderns at the CAC grading service?
Yes.
Great.
I was hoping to get a one-word answer there.
I know, that's perfect. That was the shortest one yet, and then we blew it. How about custom labels? That's been a big feature of actually modern grading. Have customization of signatures or colors or promotional items. At Greysheet, we actually have enjoyed using NGC custom labels, and it's been actually quite popular.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a problem with custom labels. My problem is how some of them are sold. All right, so I would say yes, we will do custom labels. There'll probably be a small upcharge for it because there is artwork involved and software, things of that nature. But my issue is how they're sold. So right now I'm dealing with a fraud case of a gentleman in Florida in his 80s. Actually, just passed away, and he has $390,000 worth of modern coins, and many have custom labels, and I'm afraid he paid a big premium. So my issue is not with the labels; it's how they're sold, and we will have a very very involved disclaimers and disclosures on our website about labels. And obviously we'll do it because collectors enjoy them. However, we'll make it very, very clear that, in most cases, it does not add to resale value. So we just want to be very clear.
And I think my 2 cents is that no matter what disclaimers you make, there will always be abuses on the seller side, even CAC gold stickers or something like that. So that's almost a whole different matter, but I get it. And I think it's interesting getting into the moderns, and custom labels will be new territory. How about submitters, going back to classic coins more? How about submitters, the ability to how will they go through a process of appealing a grade? Let's say they don't, they want to get back to you on that. How's that process going to be treated?
Well, again, this will be in our submitter agreement, which I'll show you a copy of. The attorneys are working on it, but I mean, we don't have an issue with resubmissions, and we don't have an issue with the submitter perhaps putting a note in the box where the graders can read it. However, phone calls to graders, text messages to graders, any kind of email to a grader about specific coin. If our graders are lobbying on coin, they will have to recuse themselves from the grading process. So we'll certainly have an avenue for this, but again, we're going to be extremely vigilant on the lobbying process. So the answer is yes, we will have a resubmission policy.
Will you be equally vigilant, I suppose, if you suspect that certain submitters are routinely touching coins in ways that you and I know are, happen in the industry and things like that, like known offenders who enhance coins? How are you gonna just quickly kick them out?
Well, you'll see our submission forms as well, and we do have very strong anti-doctoring language in the forms, and it does mention clawback provisions. I've said many times, maybe you add something to a coin or you retone a coin and you make a few $1,000s. I hope you enjoy the money, because it could be like 2 years from now, 3 years from now, you're going to get a legal letter. And again, it'd be worthwhile for us to pursue it. And there is a clawback provision. So if we have to buy the coin back and if it's from a coin doctor and they knew about it, I mean, obviously it's complicated, it's expensive in the legal process, but if we have to pursue it, we will.
Right. Well, that's been a touchy subject for years in the industry, so it'll be interesting. Um, I guess in the same vein, what kind of guarantees are you guys going to offer in terms of, let's say a counterfeit slips through or copper changes color, any number of items happen. What kind of guarantee will CAC be offering?
It will have an authenticity and grading guarantee. And as far as the copper is concerned, unfortunately we're not going to be able to guarantee the color of copper because, as you know, environmentally things can change, and a day doesn't go by where we see a beautiful coin that I'm sure was once full red and graded correctly, and now the coin's faded to red and brown. It's unfortunate. It happens. I mean, actually, it happened to me as a teenager. I bought from Ed Hips an incredible 1804 half cent, and about 95% red. It was amazing. It was one of my favorite coins. And I remember in those days, the coins were uncertified. I would take it out of the pouch and look at it and probably breathe. In either case, I watched this coin through my teenage years just keep changing, and getting darker and darker. It was sort of heartbreaking, but it happens. And I think the coins in the inert plastic holders are better protected than they were when I was a kid, for sure. But it's still not 100%. Right. And it's a difficult situation. So,
well, I know, I was reminded as you were talking about, I think you were behind the Intercept Shield product, right? Which you once explained to me is sort of like pulls the ions out of the air towards like another piece of metal away from the coin. Are you going to do anything like that for this holder?
That's a good question. The Intercept product wouldn't really work well in a holder. It would work. It works well in boxes, and they're commercially available. We are planning on lining our safes with something similar. And in essence, a gentleman named Weinberg White, if you could pull out the numismatist article, wrote about it probably 20 years ago. And essentially, all the Intercept really is, what I found out, they call it a sacrificial agent. And essentially, the copper is really like the actual glue. And as the elements go by, I mean, the copper, whether it's sulfur or acids or ozone, these elements cling to the copper, right? Right. And it's really not it's not as high tech as you think. It's actually a very inexpensive product. There's no longer a patent on it, but we're planning on lining our shelves in our safe room at the office with just copper sheets. That alone will do it. And I've mentioned to collectors, if you're ever concerned, just buy a bunch of not zinc pennies, but copper pennies, like 1961 penny rolls, uncirculated. You could probably buy them for 75 cents. Take 3 or 4 rolls, dump them in your safe deposit box. And all the pollutants will be attracted to the copper and not to your coins. And those on Intercept boxes, when we first got them, they were like a light chocolate brown, like the perfect color for a large cent. Mm-hmm. If you leave the lid off, you're actually expending it. And eventually, over time, that copper box turns black. That means it's used up, right? So it's important on Intercept boxes, I don't want to bore you to death, to keep the lid on, right? Because you're using it up. It's sort of like leaving your door open, right?
Okay. So the copper acts as a magnet to pull right. I remember you explained that to me years ago, and I thought it was an interesting topic, and I think it'd be good. Let's see, what's the next question? So are you, this registry, you've talked about having a registry set software. Are you going to accommodate in the software other grading services?
Yes, we'll have two registries. One will be all inclusive. It'll include NGC and PCGS coins. Their plus coins will get some credit above non-plus coins, and as well as CAC coins in the same registry. So it'll really like a universal registry. And we'll have another registry that will be exclusive CAC, meaning NGC and PCGS stickered coins as well as the due CAC coins. So we'll have 2 sets of registries.
Great. And is that software going to be ready at launch? Is that your anticipation?
I would say right now we have other software priorities, as you know, but I would say at launch, no, and I don't think it's a big concern because we won't have that many coins out there anyway at the launch. Right. So I do hope within 6 months or 3 months after launch that we have it ready.
Sounds good. And so that leads me perfectly to the next question: is when do you expect to start accepting submissions?
we're looking at January. Okay, but if there's a delay, right now there might be a 2-week delay with the walk-in safe. We're not really sure, but we're just saying the first quarter of 2023 for a soft opening, meaning really just partners, which are shareholders, will be the only ones allowed to submit because we'll be training the staff and things will be kind of messy. I've done this before, and the first 2 or 3 or 4 weeks for training is it's really hands-on training, learning how to encapsulate a coin and the software. It'll take a while. I expect the soft opening to be 4 to 6 weeks, and then after that we will have then we'll enable all CAC members to submit coins, and we will maintain a waiting list as we have now. And once we have that under our belt and we feel like we're in a groove, we'll then open up to new members. So we will maintain a waiting list just like we've done at CAC to assure timely turnaround.
So sometime in the first quarter, the soft launch, and then as things, depending on how messy things are, you'll start taking submissions and get rolling. And sounds good. I mean, that's a question everyone's asking. I've heard that from a lot of people. So that ends our quote unquote speed round. And now I want to dig into a couple more elaborate questions, which are the one that really seemed to garner the most confusion as we posted the video and you posted some initial Q&A, was everybody got confused about this question on ABC quality coins. And I found myself, shaking my head, frankly, reading a lot of the questions because, an ABC coin, correct me if I'm wrong, but I interpret that you're getting coins into grade, whether now, of course, as a stickering company, you look at a coin in a holder and you say, okay, this coin as it's graded, is it A, B, or C quality item for that grade? And when it's a C, of course, it doesn't get a sticker. And when it's a B, it does today, right? So this is the interpretation. So I don't know how you transfer that interpretation of A, B, and C to a raw coin that you're being sent in, submitted. So how, and people are saying, well, what are the C coins? Well, if a coin is ungraded, there's no A, B, and C any longer until you assign a grade. So you might look at this coin and say, I'm between 65 and 66. So if it's a 65, it's an A, and if it's a 66, it's a B, and if it's a 67, it's a C. So tell me what I'm missing here about this conversation.
Well, I actually gave a few examples on our website, on our forum. I mentioned, I believe, like a $17.99 silver dollar. So obviously, a $17.99 comes in, and it's an XF45. It basically has 95% detail, subtle luster around the stars, beautiful gray color. It's like the perfect bus dollar. We've seen them, and they trade for nice premiums. And that's a coin I would call an A coin, and that I would call a 45. Well, the new service, it should be graded XF45 plus. All right. Now, take that $99. Let's say it still has that gray color, and maybe it was in soap and water 10 or 20 years ago, and you could tell it's gray, it's beautiful, but not quite crusty. Certainly not. Certainly, you would never call it cleaned, right? Details. Maybe that's a B coin that gets a 45, or it could be that same crusty coin with a little bit more wear. That could be a 45. That's a B coin. The C coin would be one that, which we reject every day, could be a coin that's just, we view it as, the coin's market acceptable. It has been cleaned too much, right? A little too much, and it's not like, not terribly offensive, but offensive enough for us because we're purists. I mean, that coin would most likely get an extra fine details cleaned, right? So, when it comes to this commercial grading, I think I also mentioned maybe a 93S dollar, where I've seen some that were very clean and they were market graded, where the coin's an AU58 is a super slider, but it has extensive cleaning. Maybe they put it into a 50 or 53 holder. The market loves it. Many dealers will buy and sell them without thinking because they're white. And to us that's offensive, and we would call that AU details cleaned. So it really depends. Some C coins will go to the next lower grade. and some will just get details. For the most part, that's how I would cover that. So
right, and in bus dollars, I mean, depending on how strict you go, 90% of the coins out there will be details coins. Unfortunately, I don't.
well, it is
it's a difficult area.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, and it makes it tough. I mean, it makes it tough. You don't stick that many bus dollars, as you know, and when we do, I think the market pays a nice premium for them, as they should.
Right.
But again, we're purists. This is a niche business. We're not trying to be the biggest. We're not going to have the biggest population of bus dollars. I can assure you. Right. Or again, this is just our niche. And again, we're not even, and again, I have to stress, there's no real right and wrong here. This is just our standard.
Well, that's all we're trying to get to is your standard.
Yeah. And I don't think it's such a bad deal for someone to buy an XF bus dollar that's been clean. If it's not horrible, I mean, you're paying $2,500 for it. It's really no harm in it. You're still getting your money's worth, right? So, the big problem is, are you paying A money for a C coin? That's a problem. But if you're buying a C coin, that's fine. If you're paying C money, God bless you, it's fine, right? I don't have a problem with it.
So your interpretation, if I get it right here, is that an A coin probably gets a plus, a B coin is a straight grade, and a C is maybe a details coin, maybe net graded slightly lower. That just depends on the severity. Okay. How about, and this is just something occurred to me as you're talking, is what about great rarities? We've seen, situations. I mean, the 1870s $3 gold piece that's coming up in the Bass collection is a good example of a coin that's got graffiti. Long conversation I saw with Witter and PCGS's grading team on that was very interesting. How they decided to not net grade that coin. It had the graffiti itself is historically related because of the purity of the gold in the coin. How are you guys going to look at rarities in terms of grading? I've seen where rarities kind of have maybe a different grading scale than regular coins.
Yeah, I believe we will celebrate grading rarities with strict grading, just like everything else. I mean, it's highly doubtful. Well, it's possible, but for us to ever grade an $1804, and again, it's just really from more of an intellectual standpoint that I think that they've all been optimistically graded. But as Joe O'Connor points out, at least they're in the right order, right? So I don't think the consumer's being harmed there, because as long as they're in the right order, it's fine. If you want to add one or two to everything, it's fine. But we would prefer to grade the $1804 just like we grade the $1801. I don't see any reason why we should, or $1802 in proof. And that's how we're going to grade it. And as a result, we're probably not going to see any of them. And
right, because there's a lot of competition for these rarities, and I guess that's part of the issue.
But I don't think it really factors into. It's not a consumer issue, because I think that people know, they're buying those coins, are buying with their eyes open, and they've read the stories from David Bowers saying this used to be a 45 and now it's a 55. They all know that, but they want an $1804. I don't blame them. I've handled two $1804, and I bought them with my eyes open, as I said, and I didn't have them very long, and I told the buyers that this is how I really grade it, and they said fine. They didn't care, right?
Right. No, I understand it. The coin is still the coin, especially when it comes to rarities. Coins are historical items, and and they matter. I just think that I've seen where the grading doesn't always match the rest of the series, and I think that's a slippery slope, personally.
As I've mentioned before, we're going to have extensive grading sets, and everything's going to make sense. I mean, your 1876 CC 20-cent piece should just look just like your 1876. They have very similar luster.
Right.
They're made here, and there's no reason to give a half a point because of a rarity, in my opinion.
Right. So the last question in closing out, and thank you for taking all this time. I think people have given us the feedback that they really appreciate this kind of candid, long form sort of Q&A for those who can stomach it. But in the last question I wanted to ask you about is this topic of mistakes. I mean, nobody's perfect. I don't expect CAC to be perfect, and what are you guys going to do about making mistakes? You've said you're not going to be in Virginia Beach grading coins, and so what are you going to do when you realize that a mistake was made, or how are you going to stem that in the long term?
Well, we all make mistakes. I guess it's a matter of how you handle them. And I mean, we have a very rigorous quality control here at CAC, where uh, on a typical day, a grader will view a coin and make their assessment. I'll look at that box the next day or the day after, and I will go through my grader's box and make my assessment. The box then goes on a tray, which goes into well, it actually, in most cases, after I finish a box, I usually look at it again before I put it in the tray, and then it comes back a few hours later with stickers or no stickers on them, and I check them again, right? So, like, I mean, most coins I look at, well, at least two times, maybe three times on important coins. And I have another grader or two looking at them. And despite all those eyeballs, we still make mistakes. I mean, I attribute mistakes to fatigue. Usually it's fatigue. And, and, and maybe, I hate to admit it, but maybe part of it's just because we're a little too compassionate. Like, we'll have someone send a box of 50 coins in, and there's nothing, right? There's zero. And we're like, oh, can we give this guy you think maybe we're being too tough. Oh, here's one. Okay, yeah. And I've always found that came back to bite me, because we usually wind up buying it back, right? But I mean, I think fatigue is the biggest problem. I mean, the way I try to solve that is, like, I grade about 500 coins a day. So it's a routine. What I do in the morning is I pick out 500 coins for the graders. I give myself 100 coins, just 100, and I'll do the 100 coins. And when I'm finished, I'll get up, get a drink of water, walk up and down the hallway, stretch my legs a little bit, come back and just try to freshen myself up. It's a 5-minute break. I do another 100. I find that helps me stay fresh. So, and I've noticed after lunch, I'm slower, like 30% slower. Maybe it's blood sugar. I'm not really sure. And at about 3 o'clock, I know I'm ready to stop. I can tell when I'm fatigued and when I should stop grading. But I would say most likely fatigue is the biggest culprit in consistency. And
you're only I guess they say you're only as good as your worst mistake or whatever. But so are you going to have a fund then to buy back coins? Is that going to be part of your
we're going to have to money for a fund for sure. Also, as I mentioned, we're going to play our grading sets at shows. We're also going to play our mistakes, because I believe that the collectors can learn, like, oh, gee, here's a coin they called 64 and they bought it back, and it's a 63, and we'll try to explain the mistake and why we made the mistake. I think that'll be kind of interesting.
It will be interesting. I mean, I think I think that's great. I think to be self-effacing with the problems would be refreshing for the industry. Thank you for joining me at the end of the long day. I know it's been a lot of work so far these few weeks, so I appreciate your time and joining us. And I'm going to invite you back in 2 more weeks and make you tell me more and show off the new slab. Well, whenever you'll do it.
Hey, can I just send you a picture?
Sure. We'll talk soon. Thank you for joining us. Take care.